Welcome to Fourth and Goal podcast. I am back, Rob. I don't know. What a day! What a day! I did not think we would get to this point. 2 years, 3 years after drafting Trey Lance, we are now QB3 with Trey Lance. Rob, how are you doing?
It's been a day, Javi. Let me tell you, it has been a day, and I'm drinking a beer because I need it. I did a live show with Grant. I did a 90-minute show with Levin Black once the news broke. I'm tweeting my way through it. It's rough right now.
The crappy part is we kind of knew this was coming. Maybe not the QB3 part, but the fact that the Niners were going to go with Brock Purdy. We knew that was going to happen. That's it. That is what it is. They were going to go with Brock. He's their guy. Okay, cool. We understood that. But now, 3 years after selecting this guy, you traded 3 first-round picks to get. Now he's your QB3, and for some reason, he fell out of favor after last year. He was the guy you were going to go with. I can't put the piece together. I want to know where and when did it go wrong? What happened? What did he show them that he couldn't do? What did he show them that says he's worse than Sam Darnold? And how in the world are you going to get any trade value for the guy after you publicly devalued this guy by saying, oh, by the way, Sam is number 2, Trey, you're number 3, and maybe we'll get something for him? What?
That's the weirdest part about this whole thing. Look, my position is well known by now. I was a Trey Lance guy. I don't think they should have traded him, all that stuff. But okay, you've decided, right? That you're out on Trey. Why are you waiting this long to trade him? Trade him during the draft. Mike Silver reported they got a 5th-round pick offer. They're not getting a 5th-round pick right now. They've told the world he's QB3, that he couldn't beat out Sam Darnold. Do you think you're going to get more than a 5th-round pick now? Which to me, Javi, brings up another scenario, because when the news broke, the tweet from Pelissero was that they will explore all options. Well, there's only 2 options, right? Trade and release. But what have the Niners always said? Well, we don't just give away good quarterbacks. We won't cut Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll go into free agency with one hand tied behind our back because we don't cut good quarterbacks, right? They didn't spend the money that they could have spent if they had cut Jimmy Garoppolo in 2021. So now, are they going to cut Trey Lance and bite the bullet? Because if they cut him, it's like, okay, they don't give away good quarterbacks, but they're giving away this guy. So what does it say about what they think of him?
Yeah, I think cut is a possibility. Matt Mayoko went on his podcast a little bit ago. I was listening to it before we hopped on. He suggested that there is potential here that they're going to cut him. That if they're going to do right by him, quote unquote, right by him, that is an option to cut him. Right, the Niners would have to eat the cap money to cut him, and maybe he'd get an opportunity elsewhere. But at this point, you're so far along into training camp, and we're in close to the season. Who is he starting for? There's nowhere for him to start. Tennessee, I think Diana Rossini made a good point here. Titans, they ended up selecting Will Levis, right? Ron Carthon is former 49er front office guy. He didn't want to trade for Trey Lance. He decided to go with Will Levis. Maybe he knew something that the Niners knew, that they didn't want to, that this guy may not be good. I think that's something we also have to, accept, that the potential is maybe he's not good, but at the same time, I keep saying Trey Lance is a bust. The Niners didn't give him an opportunity to prove that he was a bust.
Nick Wagner had a tweet from ESPN. If Trey Lance never suits up for the Niners again, which, by the way, all indications are that is exactly what's going to happen, that he will have played in the fewest number of games by a top 5 pick for the franchise he debuted with in the history of the common draft era, which goes all the way back to 1967. It's only been 8 games. And think about this. In those 8 games, Javi, that includes 4 plays against the Lions in 2021, 1 play against the Packers, a half against Seattle, and 3 plays against the Jags in 2021, which was a run up the middle and 2 kneel downs. That's included in those quote unquote 8 games. This is a totally unprecedented situation right now, what the 49ers are doing with Trey Lance. And it just blows my mind that we are here. Because anybody that says that he proved he's a bust, it's just not true. It's just flat out objectively not true. Friggin' Zach Wilson got like 25 starts. Jamarcus Russell got more starts. Okay. Johnny Manziel, who didn't watch a second of film, got 8 starts. That's twice as many as Trey Lance. So if you say he's a bust and he's proved it, you're just wrong.
Yeah, he didn't. He hasn't even had a chance to prove that. Like he hasn't had a chance to prove that he wasn't good enough for them or good in general. They're just it. Like the word, I'm at a loss for words with a lot of this stuff today. I kept kind of reading everybody's tweets, hearing the comments, hearing the commentary from ESPN, Louis Riddick. Like this goes back to what I thought when they made the trade initially, right? I never really put it out on Twitter. I didn't really want to discuss it on a podcast at the time because people don't want to have these type of conversations. To me, they panicked then when they lost out on Stafford. To me, they panicked, and they even said it the day of the draft. They were still trying to trade for Aaron Rodgers. An hour before the draft, after you traded 2 months ahead of time to go pick for a spot, not a quarterback, a spot to evaluate quarterbacks, you're trying to send the number 3 overall pick for Aaron Rodgers. You weren't in on this kid from the jump, right? You tried to sell us that, yeah, we like this kid. And I think Vish hit it on the nose from the jump. They didn't put him in the state of the franchise stuff the first year. You don't see any of his pictures up around the stadium. You say there's quote unquote no competition with Jimmy Garoppolo when it really was never a competition. Jimmy laughed that shit off. He was like, please, right? Last year, they gave him the keys to the team, but they hedged to go ahead and bring Jimmy Garoppolo back no matter what anybody says. Jimmy couldn't even throw. And they hedged, and they said, Jimmy, can you come back, please? Jimmy, being Jimmy Garoppolo, he came back. He gets hurt, whatever. But I don't think Trey Lance had a long leash to begin with last year either.
Of course
and then
not.
You go into, yeah. And then, of course, you luck into Brock Purdy. I will say this. I had a conversation with Adam Snyder last year after the draft. Adam Snyder and Brock Purdy are pretty close. Like they have like a relationship or whatever. Me and him were texting back and forth. He told me last year, and I dismissed it, that Brock Purdy would beat out Trey Lance if given the opportunity. He said that after the draft, and I dismissed it. I dismissed it. I was like, nah, no fucking way. This is the first round pick. This is the last pick of the draft. I was out on Brock Purdy, but I was in on him a year prior when he looked good at Iowa State, when his team was decent. And then here he is. I think I had a tweet. I posted it during the Brock Purdy run that Brock Purdy would be the ideal fit for Kyle Shanahan. But little did I know that he'd be the guy that ends up being the QB1 for this team after you set all those picks for a quarterback that you're not going to use.
But Brock Purdy never would have seen the light of day unless Trey and Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. So, when you say they lucked into him, I completely agree. They had no freaking idea what they had, because if they did, they never would have brought Jimmy back. They never would have done that.
And I don't know that I don't know that I'm buying the players' conversations about, oh yeah, Brock was the guy, we loved him, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit, guys. Like, come on.
Give me
now it's revisionist history. Like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing.
Why didn't we hear a single peep from anybody then? See, people don't reveal stuff until they feel like it's safe. Like Diana Rossini today said, oh, it turns out the 49ers have been trying to trade Trey Lance this entire offseason. Well,
but we all knew that.
Well, we knew in February, right? Florio said in February at the Combine, they talked about a trade with the Vikings, which Diana Rossini said today was very serious discussions, even though John Lynch said, oh, no, it's all smoke. Never believe what the team tells you, ever. They're always lying, and I don't blame them. All teams lie. It's not just the 49ers, to be clear, but you have to apply a degree of skepticism to what they're saying and look at what they do. That's what matters.
No, I mean, this goes back to the Jimmy Garoppolo stuff. I said it in 2019 that he wasn't long for this team. Yeah, granted, he made it out a couple more years later because there was just no other options for the Niners, right? They couldn't find a better option. But the team was out. The Niners, watch what they do and listen to half of what they say, because you can't sit here and tell me Kyle didn't know who his backup quarterback was yesterday or the day before. Right. Apparently 10 days ago he knew. Right?
Yeah,
so it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're just dragging this kid along. And I feel bad for Trey, right? It wasn't his fault that he was selected 3. It's not his fault. Right? It's not his fault he got injured. It's not his fault the circumstances around this team are what they are. I'm going to give Vish his credit, man. Me and him had a conversation. We had conversations all throughout that draft process that this timeline of taking a rookie quarterback never made sense. You have a roster that is aging. You have a roster that is ready to win now, and a roster that is getting paid handsomely for them to just go ahead and replace the guy that took them or helped them get to a Super Bowl. The only guy that would have made that whole locker room feel comfortable would have probably been Kirk Cousins, a Matt Stafford, or even an Aaron Rodgers. You can't bring in a rookie to be the replacement guy. And we know the team didn't buy into Trey because you could just tell you had a meeting with 16 players to say, hey, prop up this guy, please. We're going to go with this guy. But, oh, by the way, is it okay if we bring Jimmy back?
It's stupid. That was so dumb. And when you look back on all this stuff, like you get a whole different perspective now because of what we know. And they never, ever bought into him. And if the 49ers cut him, it'll be the nicest thing they've done for Trey Lance since he was drafted. And that's just a fact. They have never, ever supported him. It's absurd. We all know how this works. You draft a quarterback. He's your franchise guy. You do everything. Every decision that you make is to be for the benefit of that guy if you are a well-run organization. And every decision the 49ers have made since Trey Lance was drafted has been to chop his legs right out from under him. And, Kyle said today on KMBR that, oh, yeah, we gave Trey Lance a day off from practice because it was such a light practice. Bull. I bet you he told you where to stick it. And if Kyle thinks Trey Lance is going to play on Friday, I don't think there's any way. I don't think he's even on the team by Friday. I think he's gone.
Yeah, I think he's gone by Friday too. I mean, what's the point of playing him? What are you playing him for? You're going to audition him for trade suitors? The rest of the league knows what it is. And this is the issue that I have with the Niners and their overvaluation of their assets while they devalue them publicly, right? You kept saying Jimmy Garoppolo's not our guy. Jimmy Garoppolo's not our guy. But they never actually said it. But everything they did suggested it. We looked at Tom. We looked at Aaron. We looked at Stafford. We looked at every able-bodied quarterback for 2 years, but we still landed on Jimmy. Oh, and by the way, if you want to trade for him, please, we need a second and a third. Huh? Right? And then now you're telling us, oh, listen, we really like Trey Lance. We really do. We want him to stay here. We want to try. We're going to prop him up now. But you just told the rest of the league that Sam Darnold is your QB2, and you just said – to you, Kyle Shanahan, the offensive genius that you are, that you can't make it work with Trey Lance. You're going to go with Sam Darnold because you are trusting the experience over development. And somehow you want more than a 4th-round pick for this kid 3 years later? Who's going to take that? Nobody's taking that.
I agree with you. And by the way, like, experience by itself is not – if it's bad experience, who cares, right? If you are driving a car and you've been driving a car for 10 years and you consistently get into a car accident every week, you're in a new car accident. Who would you rather have drive you? That guy or the guy that just got his license? Because I got to tell you, I'll take my chances with the newbie rather than the guy that I know crashes the damn car. And but they're trying to tell you that they fixed Sam Darnold. That's what they're trying to tell you. David Lombardi. Oh, Sam Darnold has not turned the ball. He has protected the ball. Really? Because the guy's got 55 turnovers in 55 games. That's the guy that protects the ball. And oh, by the way, he's also 90 fumbles. But you fixed him in less than 2 weeks of a preseason, right? One training camp. You fixed him. It's all set now. It's all good. He's going to be awesome now. We've done what 2 other coaching staffs couldn't do because we're so smart.
Yeah, no. At some point, you got to stop acting like you're the smartest person in the room, right? And take some accountability. I think today, Matt Mayock said it best. I called it cowardice that you sent out Fred and Juwan Hargraves to talk after the news broke.
Yep.
But Matt Mayock said it best. He's like, this is a lack of accountability. And I've never seen Kyle and John not take accountability for their stuff, which is, it's fair for Matt Mayock to say that. But the fact that he said it the way he said it, it's like, yeah, that's the best way to do it. You just told the world yesterday that you were going to make a decision on your backup quarterback the week of the Pittsburgh game. And then the next day it is out. Now, my theory here is they had a conversation, Trey and Sam and John and Kyle. Kyle says, hey, Sam, you're my number 2. Or Sam and Trey share an agent. The agent calls after that press conference yesterday, say, whoa, what are we doing here? My guy was told, and then my guy being Sam was told that the backup job is his. Mm-hmm. What are we doing? Oh, it is yours. Okay, so now trade my other guy, Trey Lance, please. Right? That's kind of my logic here on what is happening in the situation. You have the same agent for 2 quarterbacks. One of them is going to be traded, and I think the agent has to look out for the best interest for both guys. The best interest for Sam Darnold is to be the backup for the 49ers, and the best interest for Trey Lance is to get out of there and go somewhere else where he might have an opportunity to be a backup or maybe even start somewhere, right? The options are very slim. Atlanta, Tampa, maybe Seattle. Like Seattle makes the most sense out of all this just to give Kyle Shanahan a big fuck you.
No, the biggest FU is Miami, right? Because who do they trade all the picks to move up to get Trey Lance?
Oh, my God.
It's Miami. That's the cherry on top of the shit sundae. Miami would get all 3 of the 49ers first-round picks that they used to acquire Tyreek Hill. Then they would end up getting Trey Lance, and he would go to Mike McDaniel, who we know wants to stick it to Kyle Shanahan anyway. Miami's the FU spot.
And McDaniels did say something when they were talking about Trey Lance in the 2021 season about play calling and not having to call the perfect play and allowing your playmakers to make plays. So, yeah, I mean, oh, my God. Could you imagine the shitstorm that would be on 49-49? And this is – me and Vish were talking today earlier, and I'm not trying to steal Vish's idea or his thought process here, but Kyle doesn't answer anybody.
No.
Jed is just a cool kid. Jed just wants to be part of the cool kids. So Kyle's like, okay, I'm doing what I want. And no other owner in the league would allow a team to go and spend what they spent without knowing who they're going to select at number 3 overall. Jed was like, oh, okay. Just do what you guys need to do. Let's just make sure seats are in, asses are in seats, and we make the playoffs, and I get paid. At the end of the day, it's about money. People are screaming to fire Kyle. Kyle's not getting fired. I'm sorry. If the Niners win 12, 13 games again, he's not getting fired. They make a deep playoff run again, he's not getting fired. It just is what it is. And this is how they avoided so much scrutiny from everyone outside of the fan base, right? The fan base, the people like you and I and those of us who have been invested in Trey Lance or this entire quarterback process for the last 6-7 years, we're like fed up with this. Like, dude, you've had 6 quarterbacks in 6 years. The rest of the league, like, oh, well, they won 12, 13 games. I mean, shit, what do you complain about? I like the wins. Don't get me wrong. But I don't hate going into every season not knowing who the quarterback is. This is this is the second year that we've known who the quarterback is.
And the players are Jimmy with it too. Kittle mentioned it multiple times, right? Every offseason, I have quarterback controversy. They're tired of it too, man, because they're the ones that keep getting asked about that. And you said it. Kyle Shanahan not having a press conference is the weakest of sauce, man. You leave Fred Warner out there to dry, and then you go on KMBR, your flagship station, where you know they're not going to ask you anything tough, and that's what you do. And by the way, it's not like the 49ers press corps was going to ask you anything tough either. But
no, not at all.
That is a dereliction of leadership by Kyle Shanahan. It's pathetic. It is pathetic.
Let's get to that KMBR interview. He had some things to say. I don't know how much of it was edited. I haven't listened to the entire thing just yet.
I did.
This one stood out to me, and I was just like, you got to be fucking kidding me. But here's Kyle Shanahan on KMBR earlier today.
Patience one way or the other, whether he'll be here when you guys be a member of the 49ers when you guys play the Steelers.
I'm really hoping so. I mean, this isn't a thing that we're giving up on Trey. This is more of how Brock played in his 7 games, and that was decided before this season started. And then how good Sam's looked. They both looked good. But we do have to make a decision here, and you only get so many reps at it, and we feel starting about 10 days ago, Sam really separated himself, and we got to keep it real in that way. But I feel very, very fortunate to have both of them here. I really hope when it's said and done that all 3 of these guys are here, and you never know when that's going to come up. We needed 4 guys last year. Doesn't happen much, but if we can have Trey as an option here, I would feel extremely happy about that. I think the other quarterbacks in our room would, and I think our team would. Trey's a very well-liked guy, one of the better people I've been around, and I do think he's going to have a lot of success in this league. It's been a tough road for him because the times he has gotten an opportunity, he ended up getting hurt and missed that window. And now he's in this position, and we'll always try to do right for Trey. If there's a better situation that his heart's in and something like that, we're going to make sure not to do something that hurts him in that way. So that's stuff that I talked to him about this morning. That's stuff I'll talk to him about tonight and continue to talk to him about. But Trey knows how I feel about him, and I hope he ends up being able to be here, and that's the best thing for him. But we got to see what is the best thing from now until then.
He said this isn't about being out on Trey. You just told the world he's your third best quarterback on the roster after you traded everything you traded to get this kid. You gave him the keys to the franchise last year, and this year he's behind Sam Darnold. Yes, this means you're out on Trey, that you're not going to roll with him. And then you send the fucking bat signal, oh, if there's something else out there, we'll do right by Trey. You just put up the bat signal to come trade for him. This is perfect comment. Didn't we just go through this with Jimmy? We did. It's the same situation with the 49ers quarterbacks. Kyle Shanahan has his arm around one girl while looking at the next one all the damn time. This is who he is. I'm at the point where, do I love Kyle as a head coach? Absolutely. But I don't want him selecting my quarterbacks anymore, right? You know, they say sometimes you have to let the head coach pick the groceries. Pick a few groceries, Kyle. Maybe you can pick the sides. Don't pick the main entree anymore. Like, let your scouts pick who they wanted to pick. If it was Mac Jones, you should have went with Mac Jones. If it was Justin Fields, you should have went with Justin Fields. If you didn't want any of the quarterbacks, you could have stayed at 12 and got Micah freaking Parsons at 12, and you would have been a better team for it.
The whole comment by Kyle Shanahan is just, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's insane. We're not out on Trey Lance. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure you aren't. Even though first of all, you told everybody at the owners' meetings when they said, is Trey Lance available? And you said, hey, we'll listen on anybody. We'll listen on Kyle Shanahan, right? And then they said, hey, is Nick Bosa available? And John Lynch said, no. So there you go. Like, they already put up the bad signal. But just the whole ridiculous comment about, we knew 10 days ago that Sam was going to be the guy. Well, then why the freak did it take 10 days? Why did you just tell the media yesterday that, oh, we'll decide who the quarterback 2 is going to be before the Pittsburgh game? So that was bogus. Then, oh yeah, we'll do what's right by Trey. Like, no, you've never done what's right by Trey Lance. Not a single time since you've drafted him. All of it was bull. There was no pushback from anybody on KMBR when it was clearly bull, because it's the flagship station of the Niners. So they don't want to tick off Kyle Shanahan, who's probably getting paid to do that interview, by the way.
It was a paid interview. Matt Mayoko mentioned that. It's a paid interview.
Yeah. So he doesn't do a press conference, but he does the paid interview. That is not leadership, man. That is not leadership. And say what you want about Jim Harbaugh, and I know that stuff ended poorly with Harbaugh. In 2011, when Alex Smith was playing his best football ever, he got hurt. Harbaugh said, Kaepernick is in, and we're sticking with Kaepernick. Screw the locker room. Screw the doubters. Screw everybody. I think this is what's best, and that's what I'm doing. We're going with Kaepernick. And 10 starts later, the 49ers were in the Super Bowl. That's what a leader does. Kyle Shanahan's not a leader. You don't take a poll of the locker room every time you do everything. I'm sorry. That's not how you run your team. That's not what a leader does. A leader stands up at the podium today and says, this is why I'm doing it. We think it's better. End of story. But Kyle didn't do that. He didn't face a single tough question from anybody. He ran away.
Yeah, this is the first time they've done that, and that's disheartening. We have I guess I have high expectations for Kyle and John when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? They usually get in front of something like this, and they didn't. They just, all right, cool. But I also don't think they wanted this to get out. I think this came from Trey's agent. I think this came from Trey Lance. Maybe Trey directly, but maybe just the agent was like, nah, man, they're dicking my guys around. This is what we need to do. This needs to get out, and someone has to be held accountable. I've always asked, what does held accountable look like in this situation? And I'm at a loss for words. Like, what are your options? You're not going to fire Kyle and John, but at the end of the day, you have to hold their feet to the fire on some of this stuff now. At this point, like, give us a quality answer, right? Stop insulting your fan base's intelligence. The Niners have one of the smarter fan bases in football, right? And for you as a head coach to be like, oh well, I know, he always has some snarky shit to say about the fan base every once in a while when it comes to these things. It's like, dude, we can read through your bullshit.
Yes.
Like, we can read through your bullshit. Like, there's no person on earth that should be believing a word that comes out of your mouth when it comes to your quarterbacks. We knew back when the Ayuk thing happened, we understood that was fucking crock of shit. It took Brandon Ayuk to go to you, the head coach, to set things straight, right? We knew about Jimmy Garoppolo. We knew about your interest in all these other quarterbacks. We knew about everything. Like, it's just super frustrating. And then Kyle, for him to expect Trey Lance to want to be there. Like, that's the other part. Does he even want to be there anymore? Why would you want to be there? Jimmy Garoppolo didn't want to be there. And we found out. It's not that we didn't. Not that we found out, but it was finally in print that Jimmy had checked out. Right? Trey's probably checked out. Like, that's it. It's over. Like, that's it. So,
And I'll say this because, like, I'm banging on the 49ers a lot today, and they deserve it. But, like, I love Kyle, like, so many things that Kyle Shanahan does. I love his game planning. I think they've done an excellent job of figuring out when it's time to cut bait with players and not overpay them in free agency. I like so much about what Kyle Shanahan does. I don't like his game management, and I don't like his quarterback judgment. And I think you're right. It is on the owner. The owner needs to come in and say, Kyle, you can't do this. Like, if you're trading up to 3, you got to know who it is. And if you don't know who it is, listen to your friggin' scout. Like, the owner has to clunk his head together with John Lynch and force him to do things. Because right now, it feels like the only guy that Kyle Shanahan answers to is Mike Shanahan. And he ain't getting paid by the 49ers. He's not a member of the 49ers organization. I know he's got his own office and he gets all the practices. I know all that stuff. But let's be honest. That's the only guy whose opinion Kyle really cares about. Everybody else whose opinion Kyle cares about is gone. Mike McDaniel is gone. Robert Saleh is gone. Slowick is gone. All his top lieutenants are out of there. It's just him and Dad now.
It's crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And yeah, does Kyle, if it doesn't work out with Brock Purdy, does Kyle have the opportunity to select one more quarterback?
It depends when you say doesn't work out with Brock. Are they going, deep playoff championship game?
Let's say they go 9-8 this year, and it doesn't look good with Brock at all. Obviously, you're not going to pay this kid, or are you going to be like, well, he's still developing,
Quarterback polygamist Kyle Shanahan. You know what I would say if I were Jed York? I would say, Kyle, you can pick the quarterback, but you can't draft him. Pick a veteran and go get him. And we'll give up whatever you want. Whether Kirk. It's, if it's Kirk, I mean, that's probably who it's going to be, right? He'll be the cheapest in terms of overall what you'd only have to give up money to get him. I'm sure Kirk Cousins would love to come to San Francisco. That's what I think. That's what York should do. No drafting. You can't do that. It's clear. You screwed that up. So if you want a quarterback, you got to get a veteran guy. And if it's Kirk, whatever. It's your choice, but no more drafting. We're not doing that again.
So I'm going to reply to this. So no, that's not what he's saying here. We're saying here there's no one around Kyle Shanahan to hold him accountable for his actions, which is what Mike McDaniels had mentioned in the Playmakers podcast, that you have to go to Kyle in a certain way for him to listen to you. And the people he listened to were McVay, McDaniels, and LaFleur. He said these things. This is what he's talking about. Not saying that these guys shouldn't have gone on and do what they needed to do, but there's no one in that locker room or in that organization that Kyle has to listen to or even consider their opinion strongly enough to where he's going to be like, oh, let's pause and let's redo this. Because it's not John Lynch either.
No, he hired John Lynch. John Lynch is Kyle Shanahan's employee. And the sooner people get that, the sooner they'll understand better what's going on with the 49ers. And by the way, don't think that everything is kumbaya between Shanahan and Lynch, because I'm not convinced that it is. I actually had this thought, Javi, and you tell me if I'm crazy, and maybe it is crazy, and that's fine. Supposedly, everything I've heard is that Kyle's the one that wanted Trey, and that maybe Adam Peters was along with him on that, but everybody else in the building did not want Trey Lance. And I can't help but wonder if the reason that the Niners are embracing Brock Purdy like they are is because John Lynch wants Brock Purdy, and John Lynch thinks, hey, I don't want to go to TV, and I don't want to get fired. I don't want Adam Peters to take my job like so many people have rumored. If they play Brock, we're going to win. And as long as we're winning, they can't get rid of me. I'm just wondering if maybe that's part of it.
That Kyle wanted Trey. Yeah, I mean, I'm on board with Kyle wanting Trey. I'm not on board with their process of getting there. Right. You wanted to do all these trade up and And then Kyle saying on a couple podcasts ago that, it was Mac Jones was part of the guy, but 4 other teams wanted him. And everyone was like, no, there weren't 4 other teams, Kyle.
Why
you traded up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you traded up well ahead without really knowing what you were doing. And that's part of where they are. I have heard similar things that Kyle really wanted Trey and Kyle's going to take his guy. But I also have heard that Mac Jones was a Lynch pick and several other scouts picks, but at the same time, like, why not just take Mac? Like, I get it. You can't take him at 3. You cannot take Jimmy Garoppolo light at 3. You can't do it. Like, you just cannot. You can't do it. You can't just go from Jimmy to this tennis player kid, right? And I've also heard that Mac didn't want to go to San Francisco. He didn't want to play for Kyle.
Interesting.
So I've heard that. I don't know how true that is, but it's like,
Why would you if you were a quarterback? Why would you, right? He tears the hell out of you behind the scenes. From everything I've heard, that he is brutal to quarterbacks behind it. Not just like in the room with you. I'm talking about in front of the team as a whole. He's incredibly tough on you. He'll drop you in 2 seconds, which is clearly what we've seen. Joe Banner just said Kyle Shanahan's overly emotional, and once you get in the doghouse, it's very, very hard to get out of it. So you got a guy that's constantly on your ass behind the scenes. You got a guy that will drop you in 2 seconds if you have one bad game or don't do every single thing that he says. Why would you want to play for Kyle Shanahan?
he's starting to get a bad rap at this point. Like, I love Kyle Shanahan. Like, I don't want him to be fired. I don't think they should fire him.
I agree.
I also think that I think he has a little bit too much power. I think that these quarterback decisions have been made in panic, right? You trade for Jimmy Garoppolo because you're getting your ass kicked every week, 1-9, right? You trade up to 3 because you lost out on Stafford and Watson and there's other options that were out there that offseason. And you're not any closer to a Super Bowl. You end up in the NFC title game. Like, okay, cool, you make it there, which is a compliment in itself, but you still don't have the guy to get you over the hump. Now, if Brock Purdy turns out to be, the next Tom Brady, then awesome, great. None of this freaking matters, right? It just doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, this trade looks terrible. Miami ends up with Waddle. They end up with all those picks. They end up with a team that is on the rise. And the Niners have just, they're still really good. But how much better could they have been with the last 3 years of first round picks? You don't have a right tackle. McKivitt stinks. I'm sorry, he stinks. You don't have a second corner that you really, really like. Your safety position is up in limbo because are you going with Gibson or are you going with Tig? Okay? Your depth on this team is non-existent anymore right now. The Niners have a major injury. They're fucked. I'm sorry, they're fucked. Offensive line, if one of those guys goes down, God forbid Trent Williams goes down.
Well, he's going to. I mean, he hasn't played a full season in years. He's going to miss at least a couple of games given his history. I've said this today, and I really think it's true. We could be at the end of the Harbaugh era. We could be kind of in the same window with the core of the team suddenly eroding away, right? Think 2014 after that season. Patrick Willis retired. Justin Smith retired. Harbaugh was fired. The new coaching staff was an absolute freaking joke. The talent on the team absolutely eroded. And then the Niners were back to square one all over again after 3 straight trips to the NFC Championship game. Niners could be in the same spot. Not that Kyle Shanahan's going to get fired, because I don't think anything could happen this year that would result in Kyle Shanahan getting fired. But maybe next year, and who knows what's going to happen with Trent Williams after this year. Maybe if Brock looks bad and Trent Williams is like, you know what the hell am I doing? I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm leaving. Who knows? George Kittle's future with this team, far from guaranteed after this season. Kyle Juszczyk, probably not going to be with this team after this season. They haven't even got Nick Bosa freaking signed yet. This can go sideways very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think I think this is a pretty fragile team right now. If something goes awry, if they start slow again, are they going to be able to rebound again the way they have the last 2 years? That gets tiring. We've talked about this, Rob. We've texted back and forth. It's like, how many more times are you going to start slow and have to and just rally the troops to get them to go again? Like, how many more times do you need to rally the troops to get it going? Like, at some point, this shit gets old for a lot of these guys. These guys have been paid. These guys are content, right? Sometimes maybe the Super Bowl is not what they want. Maybe the Super Bowl is not where they need to be, right? They're just like, okay, I got my money. We had a really great 5-year run here. It is what it is. Like, a lot of guys get like that. It is what it is. I still think this team has some passionate players, Debo, Fred Warner, et cetera, but they're getting older. Like, that's the part that scares me about this team. This team is getting older and more expensive as we go on. And people are like, oh, the salary cap's going up. Yeah, the salary cap goes up. So do salaries. Like, that's the part that people forget. Like, it goes up because salaries go up. Like, okay, cool. The salary cap went up $30 million. Okay, so now your percentage of your quarterback salary is still the same 12% of $400 million. It's still the same. You still get 12%. Like, that is where the numbers are. Math is still math. Those things drive me nuts. I think they're a good team. I think Kyle Shanahan will have them in the playoffs. But I think if something were to go awry, man, this team is going to have a hard time rebounding. And I'm not saying it's going to be tied directly to the Lance situation, but you can kind of go back to like, hey, look, you don't have a right tackle. You could have had one if you would have stayed put at 12. You could have had one had you had a first-round pick in 2022. You could have had one this past draft. Like, you could have had the flexibility to create more depth on this team than you currently have. That is, it all ties back to that one decision from 3 years ago.
You could have had Tristan Wirfs, right? They traded.
God.
Yeah, you could have had Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, I know.
And I know Ayuk, we like Ayuk, and that's fine. But like, again, it's just there's a reason why you don't win Super Bowls, and it's not just luck and injuries. It's not. And we keep hearing about Super Bowl window, but then why is Colton McKivitz the starting right tackle if it's Super Bowl window? If it's so important, where is the urgency at right tackle? Where is the urgency at kicker? I just saw you had a comment up there about the kicker. Rookie kickers, even kickers that were great, have sucked their rookie year. But the 49ers are saying, no, Jake Moody's good, and maybe he will be. But again, if it's Super Bowl window, Super Bowl or bust, no excuses, right? All hands on deck. We got to win the Super Bowl. Then why are we going into the season with a rookie kicker? Then why are we going into the season with Colton McKivitz at right tackle? Why are we going to the last preseason game where Nick Bosa is not signed yet and hasn't been with the 49ers for the entire offseason? Like, what are we doing? It's either a Super Bowl window or it's not. Make up your mind.
Yeah, they do. To me, the window's closing. And because they don't have a quarterback. They don't have a franchise quarterback in this team. That's the window. The window is closing because they don't have a franchise quarterback.
I agree. They don't.
I mean, they don't have it. And we don't know. I guess I shouldn't say they don't have it, but we don't know if Brock Purdy is going to be able to replicate what he did last year. Now, Kyle Shanahan can scheme it up all he wants, right? We schemed it up all he wants with Nick Mullins. He schemed it up all he wanted with CJ Beathard. Some guys just don't have it, right? Brock landed in a really good situation last year and played very well. But the bailing out to the left, that shit has to stop. How about step up into the pocket? He did it in the preseason game the other day. He did it again, right? You don't have we've mentioned the right tackle situation. They don't have it.
Maybe that's why he goes left.
Yeah, true. Where's Tom Compton when you need him?
Yeah, God.
God.
I agree. And that throw that Lance made where he takes a 7-step drop from under center, which JT O'Sullivan said he didn't like. I'm not freaking out about that, but it's a 7-step drop under center. Trey drops back. Cameron Latu's open. And what happens? The left tackle gets beat and there's pressure on Trey and he stands in there and he throws it. And guess what? Trey had enough arm strength to get the ball there. Cameron Latu should have caught it. Cam Latu himself said he should have caught it. That's a play that Brock Purdy can't make. He can't make it because he doesn't have the arm strength to make that kind of play. And when I say franchise quarterback, that's what I'm talking about because stuff doesn't always go smooth and according to plan. Everybody doesn't execute perfectly every play. And franchise quarterbacks have the physical ability to compensate for that. And Purdy can do that sometimes with his legs, but not with his arm. And to me, to win a Super Bowl, you got to have a guy that can do it with both.
Yeah, you need the. I mean, Purdy's got a little bit of athleticism. He's a plus athlete. I got to give him that.
Yeah, with his legs, he's awesome. He's super elusive.
Yeah, it just we'll see where they are, man. I don't know. I'm not going into this year expecting a Super Bowl. I'm going into this year expecting a first-round bounce. That's kind of where I am with this team. That's where I think they are. It's hard to repeat. It's hard to get to 3 NFC title games, But I agree with this last comment here. Guys, appreciate everything you do when it comes to the Lance situation. You have to cut your losses, rebuild from all the picks lost, but it has to get done, and it hurts, but it has to get done. I think that's where we are. Like, this is the Niners have cut their losses. It's a sunk cost, kind of like the title of the show today. It's a sunk cost. They sunk the cost.
But
So,
there's no reason to get rid of Trey Lance, right? Even if you're not going to play him, you don't have to get him off the team. That's the weird thing. It's like, okay, you're not going to make him your starter. That's fine. But why does he need to be off the team? Why do you think he's so bad that he can't be anywhere near the franchise? Like, that's just not true. Like, I don't care what he's done in practice, that he's missed some throws in practice. I've seen this guy play in the games, and it hasn't been nearly as bad in the games as people pretend that it is. And it certainly hasn't been near as bad in the games as Sam Darnold. That's just objective fact.
yeah, let's get to that after this question here. Trey Lance news be related to the Bosa contract. How much you want to bet Bosa gets signed tomorrow so that way this Trey Lance shit gets away? It goes like slides underneath it. Or like a Friday news dump. Nick Bosa signed. No more Trey Lance talk. We're done.
Yep. Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right? David Lombardi tried to do that today by tweeting out, oh, Brock Purdy was perfect 12 for 12 in practice. Who cares, David? Who cares? Like, there are so many people carrying water for this team constantly. Lombardi is one. Akash Anavarathan is another one. Constantly carrying water for this team. I'm just tired of it, man.
It's crazy. You have a super chat here that's in my mentions.
Yeah, brother Bob, we won't win a Super Bowl with Kyle. He doesn't know quarterbacks, the most important damn position, relying on Sam Darnold, who will play because our quarterback gets hurt, and Shaky Moody.
So let's get to that real quick. We've been on for a little bit. Let's get to that. What did Sam Darnold do better than Trey Lance?
Throw a spiral? I said it on my show, or one of the shows. They're all blurring together. I feel like they would rather see Sam Darnold have a pretty 3-and-out than Trey Lance have a bumpy scoring drive. It looks prettier with Sam Darnold. That's it. That's the only reason, right? Even his interceptions. Ooh, he threw it and it hit Ronnie Bell right in the head. Nobody said Sam Darnold threw the ball too hard to Ronnie Bell, right? No. But if Trey Lance did that, it's because he doesn't have any touch and he throws rockets all the time. But nobody said that about Sam Darnold. It looks prettier with Sam Darnold. It looks conventional with Sam Darnold. And that's what people are comfortable with. And so that's what we got. That's the only way he's been better than Trey this preseason.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on tape that said Sam was better than Trey. We know people might disagree with this take, but how are you? We've seen Sam for 55 starts. We've seen what he does. We've seen what he is. I get it. He's on a better team with better options, better head coach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we've had this conversation with Jimmy Garoppolo, with Nick Mullins, with C.J. Beathard. These guys are who they are. Like, you can't coach some of this shit out of them.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You can't get these bad habits out of them. You can't improve their thinking process. Like, this is who they are. Nick Mullins is a turnover machine. C.J. Beathard is not a good quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo will never see the underneath defender, no matter how many times you tell him it's going to be there. Sam Darnold is still going to make the same mistakes he's made his entire career. Now, can Kyle make it easier? Can Kyle maximize his potential? Sure, but there's mistakes that are going to show up over and over and over and over again, but you're choosing the experience over the potential development of Trey Lance. It's funny to me. And this guy, HC here, he said, Frank Gore backed Sam Darnold. Frank Gore's been backing Sam Darnold since he was a Jet. Like,
who cares? Who cares?
Players are wrong. Players are wrong. Like, I remember Isaac, it was one of the former Niner all-time offensive lineman greats. He said that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to win a Super Bowl for the 49ers. He's that good. Did he win a Super Bowl?
Don't think so. Not yet.
Right? Joe Staley told me in 2018 that the Niners are done with Jimmy Garoppolo. Guess what? They were done. Like, these players, some players know, some players don't know. Frank knows running backs. I don't think Frank knows quarterbacks. Frank fell in love with Andrew Luck, and then he's had bad takes on quarterbacks since then.
When has Frank Gore ever not supported a teammate? He always supports a teammate. Frank Gore's a great teammate, just like George Kittle. George Kittle's always going to gas up whoever's in there. He's even admitted that. Like, you just finding the one player that agrees with you doesn't make you correct. Joe Montana was stumping for Jimmy Garoppolo. How'd that work out? Huh? Jeez, Joe Montana. Forget players. Players are players. They're not GMs for a reason. Okay. The amount of players that can become good GMs, very, 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 very small. And there's a reason for that. It's because there's two different jobs.
Yeah, Nick Ellert here in the comments. Everybody in Minikoff have both said Darnold has looked better than Trey in practice, and games are both pro Lance. Isn't that weird? No, it's not weird. I think both those guys are pretty objective. I think they don't have a horse in the race.
I don't think middle is subjective.
I think John is I think John tries to align himself with what his scout buddies say, and I think Guy is more objective. That's fair.
I think Middlecoff is diet cowherd. He's in it. He's in it for the reaction. I like
John.
He's talked about how he idolizes Colin Cowherd. He's on Colin Cowherd's podcast network, and Colin Cowherd's made a ton of money. You're like, I get it, dude. But in terms of objectivity, no.
I think Guy does a better job, though. Guy is pretty.
I agree.
Pretty objective.
Yes, I agree.
I don't think. I think we can be a pro Lance player, a pro Lance guy, and still have this thought that, like, I'm pro Lance, but I've been telling Rob for months, Sam's gonna be number 2. I kept telling you, I was like, man, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. And here it is. And Levin said something the other day. It's like, so content creators are aligning themselves with what the team's going to do, might do, as opposed to having their own opinion. Sometimes the writing's on the wall. The writing was on the wall since March. It was over. It's over. And I feel bad for the kid.
The first thing Kyle said about Trey Lance, right? And I just wrote about this for goldstandardniners.com. The first thing he said about Darnold. Well, he was in a bunch of bad situations. His skill set's as good as anybody. I liked him coming out in the draft in 2018. He was in a bunch of bad situations. They got down by a bunch and, so he doesn't have the stats. It's like, no, he didn't just fall into the game when they were down by 20. Okay. Not all of his interceptions came when they were down by 20. And if they did come when they were down by 20, he's the reason. Sam Darnold is not a victim. He's not a victim. Okay. He's just not. And people keep thinking that he is. And I don't know why. And why doesn't anybody think that Trey Lance is a victim? What's the difference between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold? I can think of one.
Ismail in the comments, watch me keep Lance and he ends up being the reason we save our season. I mean, we've seen it's crazier things have happened, right? It's just a messed up situation, man. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know how much more needs to be dissected of it. It's unfortunate for Trey, and it's the fact that the Niners. It's like the scene from Breaking Bad where he's like, "We can't keep getting away with this.
He can't keep getting away with it."
like the 49ers keep missing on early draft picks, but they make up for it on the back end. Like, I don't understand how they continue to do this. It shows to me that the scouts know more than what Peters, John, and Kyle know when it comes to evaluating players. So I feel like the first 3 rounds are all Kyle and John, and the last 4 are the scouts. Because you keep finding these gems, right? Okay, cool. Fred's a 3rd-round pick. I know everyone before they kill me in the comments. Kittle, Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw. Like you keep finding these guys. Ronnie Bell, DJ Jones. It's crazy how they just keep getting away with this. And potentially they lucked into potentially a future franchise quarterback in the last pick of the draft that no other team in the league wanted, by the way.
Nobody wanted. They didn't want him. For 6 rounds, they said, no, we'll find somebody better. We got a better pick. They didn't want him. They get no credit for Brock Purdy whatsoever. They just said they drafted him because they didn't want to have to fight for him as an undrafted free agent. So, they didn't even really think he was good enough to get drafted. I love this team. I love this team so much. And they just continue to do crazy, crazy freaking things. And it's tearing me up inside, man. This has been a rough day for me. I'm not going to lie.
It's been messing with my whole day. I don't know, man. So do you think he plays on Friday or not?
No, I don't think he's on the team by Friday. I really don't. Why would you play if you're Trey Lance? Like, you're done with me. I'm going to risk injury. Like, imagine Kyle calling a read option for Trey Lance. That would be
my God.
Are you out of your mind? I think that's part of the reason he didn't give the ball, or he didn't keep the ball on that 4th down they ran against the Broncos. If I were him, I'd be like, I'm not doing that. If
that play looked good. That was the best he looked running the ball.
Yeah, he actually, you're right. The whole thing is insane. If I'm Trey Lance, I never suit up for the 49ers again. Why would you? There's what's in it for me. That's what I would say. You guys have put yourselves above me at every opportunity. I'm going to do the same thing to you. I'm just going to do the same thing to you that you have been doing to me. Sorry, I'm not suiting up. You got Brandon Allen, right? He's really great. Good. Give him the reps. That's what you wanted to do anyway. I wouldn't suit up.
Yeah.
No.
Donald Buchanan here. How do you build a team with the QB being the last part? This goes back to the timeline conversation. This team was ready to win, and you wanted to move off Jimmy Garoppolo too soon before you develop a guy behind him. And that locker room wasn't going to accept him, and they never did. And this is where they are. It's insane. Eduardo here says Lance will be in street clothes on Friday. He might not even be on the team, to be honest with you.
I don't think there's any
I
way.
think we wake up Friday morning. The 49ers have traded Trey Lance to the Minnesota Vikings for a 5th-round pick, a conditional 5th-round pick, and some random pass rusher.
Or it'll be the 49ers want to do right by Trey Lance, so they're going to cut him and let him choose his next team, which is a crock of BS, because to cut him now is when he has no chance to catch on with anybody is insane. But that'll be the narrative. That'll be the narrative to whatever national writer the 49ers feed it to first, 5 minutes before it gets announced publicly. It'll be they wanted to do right by Trey. They could have made a trade, but they wanted to give Trey the best chance to pick his own team. That's what it'll be.
Who gets it, Ian or Tom Pelissero?
That's a good question. I think it'll be Pelissero because they had to push back on the end.
Yeah. Oh my God, this team. Well, it is what it is. I don't know what to do with my Trey Lance jerseys that the Niners sent me, by the way. They sent me those. So let me see.
I honestly want to say this. I think that the Niners, you putting out that practice video, I think the Niners hated that. I think they hated that because people saw it and we were like, what are we waiting for with this guy? Right? They had kind of kept it under wraps, and you put that video out and then people started asking about Trey Lance in practice. I think that was a big thing for them and you.
I got in trouble. Well, I shouldn't say in trouble. There's nothing they can do about it, but their legal somebody emailed me, asked me where I obtained the video. I said, ask your players. That was my response. And then they responded back, what will it take for you to not do that again or do any more practice videos? I go, well, I need some jerseys, some gear. They sent me 2 Trey Lance jerseys. Like, they're authentic. They're like cut, like sleeves all perfect and stuff. It's perfect.
They knew. They were like, yeah, great. Enjoy these jerseys while he's on the team. You should have said, what will it take for me to stop? You starting and committing to Trey Lance. This is all your fault, Javi. What the hell?
It's my fault, man. I knew it. And I'm not trying to. You should have took Fields.
You should have taken somebody that you believed enough in to at least wait more than 4 starts before you bailed from whoever it was. If it was Mac, have the balls to stand up and take Mac, to do what's best for the team, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Because if you win, that's all that matters in the end. Like we've been saying with Brock, right? If they win, none of this Trey stuff will matter. They should have had the courage of their convictions to take the guy, stand in, and develop him. They already decided that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't good enough to win a Super Bowl. You don't do that unless you don't make the trade unless you've already decided that. So then to pick the guy and then not play him is absurd.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what they were thinking. Someone has to be, maybe this is what gets John Lynch fired. And I'm not asking for John Lynch to be fired. I like John Lynch. I don't, but this is there's always a scapegoat. Yep. There's always a scapegoat. And who's the closest, who's halfway out the door already, right? Who almost took a TV deal. Hey, it didn't work out with Trey. Niners win 10 games, 9 games. They get a first-round bounce, whatever. John Lynch is, you know what? I really wanted to win a Super Bowl. My heart is back in TV. Like, that's just kind of how they do it. And then here comes Peters, and someone has a scapegoat, and then the Kawakami hit piece comes out.
Holly Price in the comments says, Stats, you have no idea what you're talking about. Brock is 23 years old. You're already counting him out. I'm not counting him out. It's possible they win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, but I feel like because of his limitations physically, and he has physical limitations, we have already seen them, their path to win a Super Bowl is harder. It's narrower because it's really hard to win a Super Bowl if you don't have a franchise quarterback. Yeah, the Eagles did it, but I would argue that Foles ended up playing like a franchise quarterback. Can Brock do that? Yeah, but it doesn't happen that often. Just go look at the history of the Super Bowl and see who has won them. Look at the names. Roethlisberger, multiple Super Bowls. Manning, Brady, the other Manning. Like, you got to have a franchise guy, especially if you want to win more than one, by the way.
Mahomes has been to 3 in 7 years.
The guy they didn't bother to scout.
Yeah. Like, come on. What are we doing? Well, I'm here for Kirk Cousins in 2024.
Yep.
It is what it is. Let's go, Kirk. But, let's get out of here, Rob. It's been good to get back on the mic. It's been a while. I think that I will be making time to do post-game shows, but I'm not going to overlap anybody. It'll be later on in the night after I've calmed down from a win or a loss to be objective and calm. Rob, let the people know where they can find you. I mean, you guys are crushing it again with the Gold Standard Network. So
I appreciate that. And yeah, it's really great to have you back. We missed you, Javy. So I'm glad you're no longer podcast host emeritus. You're just podcast host. But you can find us at the Gold Standard 49ers Podcast Network. We have a website, goldstandardniners.com, YouTube channel, Instagram at GSN 49ers. Same thing with Twitter or X or whatever the hell we're calling it. We're everywhere. And I want to thank everybody for joining us, because I know there's a ton of 49ers content creators, and this community is here for everybody. And that's really, really cool. It's really awesome to see. I see the same people in the chat that are in my shows that are here for you. Like, that is awesome that support is there. So thank you, everybody. I know it's crazy, but we appreciate the support.
absolutely appreciate it. Good to be back. I'm going to try to keep this going. Probably just do post games for now. I am working a lot. Nick Eller had a comment earlier. Javi, are you in a closet? No, I just bought a new house. I haven't completely furnished it yet. I'm in the new office area, and my wife doesn't want me to hang up a whole bunch of Niner stuff back here. She wants to decorate it with her greenery. I don't know. So happy wife, happy life is what they say. She's working from home, so we're going to share an office. So it is what it is. But until next time, do appreciate all the support. This is the Fourth and Goal podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Javier Vega _. And then just make sure you hit that subscribe button. That'll help me out. Maybe hopefully get this to where we get membership and super chats and all that other stuff going. But until next time, go Niners. Everyone stay safe. Have a good night. Peace.